In the last video, I discussed my heart attack. In this video, I'm going to discuss the healing process after my heart attack. Hey, what's shaking bacon? I hope you're doing well. My last video, I discussed what it was like when I went through my heart attack back at the end of 2016, and I eventually went to a carnivore diet. Now, I'd already been experimenting with zero carb on and off, but I had a hard time being consistent with it. After my heart attack, I woke up getting wheeled to my room. It turned out they put 3 stents in my right coronary artery. The first one didn't take, so they had to put another 2 in. So after I woke up, I was lying in bed. My wife at the time came in with my father and my sister, and my wife told me what had happened as far as the stents went and the blockage. And she said, you're going to be on 5 medications, 3 of which for the rest of your life. And I said, okay. She said, you're going to be on aspirin. And I was like, yeah, makes sense. She said, you're going to be put on another blood thinner and that's going to last for a year. And I said, okay, yeah, makes sense. She said, you're going to be on cholesterol medication, because I did have high cholesterol for years before my heart attack. But I knew that wasn't such the demon that we always thought it was. It was other issues like my obesity and my insulin resistance that was way more of an issue than my cholesterol. Studies show that really has not much to do with it. Metabolic syndrome is a far more serious condition. The general inflammation of my body from carbohydrates had far more to do with it than the actual cholesterol. But it turned out there was one major trigger for my heart attack, which I'll get into in a minute. And then she said, you're going to be put on 2 blood pressure medications for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not. And my sister laughed and she went, that's dad right there. And I was like, I don't have high blood pressure. I've never had high blood pressure. There's no reason for me to be concerned about high blood pressure. Why would they put me on blood pressure medication if I don't have high blood pressure? Not only 1, but 2. So I eventually went off that blood pressure medication after about 1.5 years or 2 years with my doctor's supervision, because you should never go off blood pressure medication. It's dangerous. You need to do it under a doctor's supervision. Always remember that. So I was taking medication before this, and I was taking anti-inflammatories because I had been dealing with gout for a really long time. Now I was taking steroid-based anti-inflammatories, and they said, you're not going to be able to take this medication anymore. Now I was taking 3 of those pills twice a day. So I was dealing with gout almost consistently after I went zero carb back in the winter of 2013 and 2014. I lost a lot of weight, and the allopurinol really didn't affect me too much, and that's a medication to help prevent gout. But the anti-inflammatories helped get me through day-to-day life. I was dealing with gout probably about 5 out of 7 days a week. So I was often wearing slippers to work. I was wearing loose shoes. I was in a lot of discomfort with almost daily gout. The only thing that kept it manageable was taking a lot of anti-inflammatories. Here's the thing about steroid-based anti-inflammatories. They cause blood clots when you take them for a long period of time. So they said, you can't take these anymore. And I thought, why was my doctor letting me take these so much, so often? Why didn't he say anything about that? You get to a point in life where you start realizing you have to take your own healthcare into your own hands, because sometimes the medical professionals that are watching you aren't always doing the best they can be doing. And I know that sounds weird coming from a big guy, but the situation was I never once been told I had diabetes or even pre-diabetes. I was obviously pre-diabetic since I was around 400 pounds when I had that heart attack. Even though I was only 42 years old, I just turned 42. This was a very serious 100% blockage in my right coronary artery. So I got into a disagreement with the doctors on staff about my blood pressure medication. They were absolute about it, because what happens after you have a heart attack is they give you a cookie cutter treatment of medications, and you don't really have much say in that. So afterwards, I had this condition after they put the stents in my heart where my sac around my heart was getting inflamed. I had pericarditis. So I had to sleep propped up. And when I was sleeping propped up, it actually helped a lot with my sleep for the longest time afterwards. I still sleep perfectly on my back, propped up a little bit, because I sleep really well. I don't toss and turn anymore. So that was an issue. My sleep was a real issue before I had my heart attack. So after a few days, my pericarditis cleared up. Now it did drag out because it came and then it went and it came and it went. And I don't care what they say, it had something to do with the food I was eating. Now I wasn't carnivore. I'm not complaining about that. I think it just had something to do with the volume of food in my stomach. I can't explain why. We do know there's more and more of a link being shown year after year on the connection between gut health and heart health. So even though they insisted it had nothing to do with the food I was eating, clearly there was a reaction, because every time I ate, I'd get pericarditis, and the only thing that would get rid of it was morphine. Morphine. Actually, morphine had no effect on me whatsoever. It just managed pain, did nothing else. I didn't even feel hungover like lots of people say they do after they take morphine. So when I left the hospital, I actually went to my office just 2 blocks away and I did a couple massages, 1 acupuncture session, 1 massage. So the interesting thing about that was it really freaked my wife out because the doctor gave me specific instructions for 30 days afterwards to not exert myself physically, emotionally, or mentally. And my ex-wife was really upset that I went right to work after I left the hospital. I literally took a cab from the hospital to my office. You have to keep in mind, I'm a massage therapist. For me, it is not physically demanding work. It's very relaxing work for me. I'm in a relaxed environment with relaxing music, relaxing lighting. I'm getting to have awesome conversations with people. It's a really ideal scenario. There's no physical exertion for a guy my size doing massage therapy. If anything, I'm often holding back on people. That was a bit of an issue, and I had to explain that to my wife. It's like, look, I'm gonna go stir crazy if I do nothing for a month. So I eventually started going to a cardiac clinic. This was a cardiologist's office about a half hour out of town, and they had me do steady state cardio for 30 minutes. It was all very dated information that they were applying at this doctor's office. And by this point, I'd been on cholesterol medication for a month. And the doctor looked and said, okay, good. Your total cholesterol. He said, my total cholesterol was something like 1.2. And I said, do you mind if I go on a weaker dosage of medication? I don't want my cholesterol to be that low. And he looked to me and went, Bruno, you have had a serious heart attack. Why would you want to have higher cholesterol? I had already known for quite a while, a few years before this happened, that cholesterol wasn't the demon we all thought it was. But cardiologists, surprisingly, are really behind the times. They don't want to admit it. They've been convinced, they've been conditioned more than you and I that cholesterol is the demon. And lots of them haven't come around to the new science showing that not only is cholesterol not the demon, cholesterol medications aren't really the best thing for people, and they really have a minor difference in the effects of heart attacks. Do your research on that. Don't take my word for it. So when the doctor said that to me, I looked to him and I said, well, my brain's made out of cholesterol and my nervous system's made out of cholesterol and my body uses cholesterol to transport nutrients all through my body and hormones. So there's a reason I should have cholesterol in the body. So I don't mind that you want to keep me on the medication. I understand, but I don't want my cholesterol to be that low. And he got incredibly condescending and tried to out medical jargon me, not knowing I'm a trained medical professional myself as a massage therapist. And so I listened to what he said and I gave a retort. I said, I don't have to worry about inflammation because I'm doing a 0-carb diet and my inflammation's gone in my body. I'm feeling really good. My joints are better. I can feel the inflammation's not what it was. At that point, he got really condescending towards me. So when he got really condescending towards me, I looked to his nurse. She put her head down because she saw that he was being a bit of a tool. And I looked to him and I said, I appreciate your medical opinion, but I don't appreciate your sarcasm and your attitude. Knock it off. And he just turned around and took a step back because he just realized he kind of pissed off the giant. Long story short, I stopped seeing him because I didn't appreciate that attitude he had. This guy was clearly stuck in science from 30 years ago, and he wasn't paying attention to what was current, both with the exercise and the medications that he insisted I stay on. So my doctor helped me go off most of these medications. The only thing I take now, every now and then, is aspirin. Here's the problem with aspirin. Aspirin aggravates gout. It's good for my heart, bad for my gout. So it was really difficult because I was on aspirin for so long after my heart attack, I eventually developed other health problems from that. Or I should say more so that they contributed to other health problems I had. So after my heart attack, I started doing my own weight training. After about 6 months or so, I got into powerlifting. And now you're thinking, why would you go into powerlifting after you've had a heart attack? Those stents in my heart have reinforced those arteries. I need to start strengthening my heart and increasing my lean mass and my muscle mass to have a better metabolism. Strength training is one way to do that. Powerlifting is just a new way of doing that I hadn't really tried before. I've done lots of different bodybuilding styles of working out. I had done strength training, but I wanted to give powerlifting a go. So I'm seeing a different cardiologist now. She's not too impressed that I'm not on my cholesterol medication, but she hasn't been a jerk about it. On top of that, my cholesterol's been getting better and better. And more importantly, we all know it's the triglycerides to HDL ratio that's more important. And for me, it's doing great. Everything improved on a carnivore diet. What I went through after my heart attack was a lot of stress, a ridiculous amount of stress. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but after my heart attack, I went through a horrible divorce about 6 months later. It lasted 3 years and it was ugly. I mean, it was pretty bad. I went out of my way to not retaliate in any way, shape, or form, but my ex-wife wasn't taking the high ground. It was pretty ugly. I always said it'd be cool to get stalked by a hot chick, but it's not nearly as much fun when it turns out it's your future ex-wife. So after a while, I was forced to relocate my office because the landlord sold the building. I got new landlords at home. I ruptured my bicep. I lost my acupuncture ticket through my College of Massage Therapists of Ontario through their administrative shenanigans. It was really sad. They did that to a lot of massage therapists, but not all the massage therapists who had acupuncture It was really weird. After a couple years, I started passing kidney stones, and that was really horrible. That was as bad as the sciatica I once had years ago. So for about a 3-month window, I was passing kidney stones. It was excruciating. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. I eventually had like a catheter or something put in, and for the next month, I drained a lot of blood. And I took about another 3 months to recover just from the blood loss. It was pretty bad. I have a whole new respect for women and their menstrual cycles, let me tell you. I also had a major car accident. Everyone was fine, but my car is a complete write-off. So through all this, you got to keep in mind, the reason why I mentioned that was I was an emotional eater. It took me a long time to try and get my eating under control, and I was going on and off carnivore all the time through this. It was really difficult, and it finally all hit its peak when I had to put my dog down. At that point, I just crashed. I was not doing well, and I eventually learned to overcome that hurdle of the emotional eating because my emotional eating got so bad. It was horrible. I was living off ice cream, cake, and pizza day in, day out for 5 months straight. It was 4 months after I put my dog down and the month my dog was sick. It was really bad. And at one point, I just finally clicked and I realized I have to change this. And I haven't looked back since. I've been consistent without a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet. The reason why I bring that up is emotional eating is something that a lot of people out there have to deal with life stress. I went through a lot of life stress in a ridiculously short amount of time. I've always had a privileged life. I've never had difficulties in my childhood, my teens, 20s, 30s. I had a great childhood, and as an adult, everything was going good. Yeah, I had problems with my ex-wife's family and everything, but for the most part, life was easy and life was simple. So this is something a lot of people have to deal with in life. It's not only the difficult things you go through, but the way you handle those emotions while you're going through it and afterwards. So the wonderful thing is carnivore has brought most of my health conditions into remission, almost all of them. I have high insulin, which is keeping the obesity around, and after that, everything else has gotten better and better. I have to do another calcium scoring test because it's been a while since I've had that. I haven't had an accurate one since my heart attack, but every time I do a stress test, I pass with flying colors. So anyway, thanks a lot. I appreciate you watching this video. If you can, leave a comment, give the video a thumbs up. I really appreciate your support. Thanks a lot and take care.